Right, so both the English and welcome everyone. Both the English and Spanish Blue Jeans are being recorded, and we'll be posting those later on to DocuShare. If you have questions, please put them into the chat on this main Blue Jeans channel, the English one. Although Nicole, if you do get any on the Spanish channel, please just let us know, and those questions will be addressed at the end of the meeting. And as I said, Nicole is translating into Spanish. This number will be in English. If you're on this number and you want Spanish, please look in the chat and switch over to the other Blue Jeans number. And everyone's muted on entry, but you are able to unmute. If you have anything to say, please just unmute and speak up. And like I said, this will be shared on DocuShare after the meeting is over. And I'll hand over to Victor.
Okay, so thanks, Rampal, and thanks for setting this all up with the admin team and the comms team for making this happen. And really appreciate the opportunity to be with everybody today. You can see here on the screen the agenda. We're going to try to make this formal part only half of the time, so that we leave plenty of time for discussion, questions, and really capture whatever is on the minds of the team at this point. And so I won't even go through this in particular, but we'll just move right on in the interest of time with Steve.
Okay, thanks, Victor. So let me just start with a couple of slides about some overall things this year. Some of you may not know that we actually updated our mission statement this year. And as you can see it on this slide, it's to build a well-understood system that will produce an unprecedented astronomical data set for studies of the deep and dynamic universe. Make the data widely accessible to a diverse community of scientists and engage the public to explore the universe with us. And clearly the new parts of this mission statement are those which are in the Crom and Dom teal color that we so proudly represent the Rubin Observatory with. And we decided to make this change partly to make it part of our mission is our engagement of the public. This has always been an aspect of the project. As you know, we have a well-funded EPO program, and it's clearly an element. But with the idea that we're not just building this for ourselves and for the community of professional astronomers, but it really is a world facility for everyone in the world, and engaging as diverse an audience as possible is not only a goal, it's actually part of our mission. And in that context, let's go to the next slide. Astronomy has always had an interesting connection to indigenous communities, partly because we tend to build telescopes in remote locations where some of the remnants and even the descendants of the original indigenous communities are still quite active and quite preserving of their traditions. And this is true of all of our locations. We're honored to have the opportunity to work on land, which is traditional lands of the O'odham and Yaqui people in Arizona, and of course the various indigenous peoples in Cerro Patrón in Chile. So we want to recognize and acknowledge the very significant cultural role and reverence that these sites have to these communities, specifically the Tohono O'odham Nation, the Pascua Yaqui tribe, and of course the local communities in Chile, respectively. And it is a shared endeavor that we engage in our study of the natural universe in connection with these peoples. So let's go to the next slide. This is a personal comment from me as a way of welcoming everybody to this event. We have tended to hold all hands meetings before the holidays, which gives us an opportunity at the end of the calendar year to reflect on where we've been and where we've come from. And I think all of you are aware this has been an extremely eventful year, both positively and negatively. And I want to thank all of you for your tremendous dedication to ensuring that the construction of the Rubin Observatory will be successful and that it will meet all of our expectations. This is not an easy project. It's a challenging project, even if we were not faced with some of the things that we've seen over the past few years. And there's no way that it would succeed without not only the high skill level that we have of our staff, but also the extreme dedication that all of you have brought to this project. I think most of you know that I will step down in January. It's now less than 1 month away. And of course, it's with significant reluctance that I do that. Working on Rubin has certainly been the most significant element of my entire career. And I feel extremely fortunate to have shared this experience with all of you. We have built something truly magnificent. It's not totally complete yet, but it's close. And it is a truly magnificent endeavor. Its legacy will live on for decades. I think, you know, a project like Rubin is the 22nd or 22nd century's equivalent of, you know, the Gothic cathedrals that are all over Europe. It's really magnificent achievement that takes many years to complete, and it will live on. So if we go to the next slide, so Victor, are you frozen or am I frozen? Or?
Oh, no, it's my blue jeans has decided to do something different. There you go.
There we go. So I wanted you all to see this marvelous picture of my successor on the project, Željko. Most of you received an email this morning from Matt Mountain and a follow-on email from me announcing that it's now official that Željko Ivisic has been appointed the director of the Rubin Observatory construction. He is tremendously capable and experienced and a great scientific leader. And I'm sure you will enjoy continuing to work with him as we go to the completion of the project. Let me turn it over to Željko.
Thank you, Steve. Rampal, thank you for this dramatic change of background. It's a bit shocking. Can we have next slide? Let me start by thanking Steve. Steve was a great leader. We will miss him so much, not just for his skills and experience, but also as a warm human being with infectious laugh. We will really miss him. Good news is that Steve is not disappearing completely from our universe. We know where he will live, and we will have many opportunities to engage with him if we need some institutional knowledge that he has. Also, I'm hopeful that he will have enough time to continue as a member of the project science team and continue interacting with us. As you know, our first director, Tony Tyson, our founding father, he is still member of the project science team, and he's contributing greatly to our work, especially lately with the LEO satellite problem. So I'm hopeful that Steve may continue doing something like Tony too. So I'm of course excited about this. I've been working for about 2 decades on this mission, and it's a very exciting mission, but I'm also excited about working with all of you. It's really a great source of happiness to wake up in the morning and being excited about your work, and you are rushing to get to work because what you do is so fantastic. And a big part of that is all the great people that you work with. As Steve or Rampal said in the announcement, we will have triumphant ending of this mission. We are aiming for that. We all need to remember that there are many ways to fail still in these 2+ years. And we will all be working together to prevent such failures and indeed to overcome all the challenges, and a little bit over 2 years from now be done with the construction project. Indeed, a little bit more than a year from now, we should have first sky images with our instruments. So can we go to the next slide? So we will announce some changes in the org chart very soon. You may recall that a few weeks ago, we solicited letters of interest for 2 positions that will be vacated when I become director in January, deputy director and the project scientist. We received a number of such letters. We have excellent candidates. So decision has not been made, but even if you randomly picked 2 candidates, it would be fantastic decision. So we will not fail in this context. It will be great appointments. It is plausible that there will be additional updates to the org chart, to the leadership team, and that was planned long before Steve announced his departure. This has nothing to do directly with Steve's departure. It has to do with the fact that we are now in a special point in time in construction where we go from the initial part of construction where we had to produce all the hardware pieces and most of software, and now we are entering the last phase where they are meeting each other, and now we have to integrate everything, and then we have to commission it. We have to make it work at the performance level which is required to enter operations. That's why I said that our prime objective is to start LSST. That sounds simple, but it's conditioned on many things. We need to finish construction, and we need to get this system to operational level at the performance level required for operation. So we will announce these 2 new appointments within 2 weeks, just before the holidays. And then with these new appointments, with Victor, with the rest of leadership team, we'll be working in January on optimizing our leadership team in org chart, and then we'll hopefully finalize this reorganization by the end of January, and then we might have similar meeting like today to talk about it. And so since we only have an hour, and I know Victor prepared some excellent slides too, I'm not going to go any further. I just want to thank Steve again. We would not be where we are, almost done, almost at the end of construction, without Steve. So Steve, thank you again. Victor, we can continue with your part.
Great. Also, I think I've said it in other meetings when we've had this transition discussion. I also extend my personal thanks to Steve. It has been a true treasure. It's been a treasure to work with you, and a great 2 decades since we first met on Cerro Pachon. Just sort of cruising around, looking at what it might be. And let me be the first to formally send you my condolences, Željko, for your new position. And with that, I also look forward to working with you in that new capacity. So this next part of the time together here is to just look a little bit at the construction progress. There is, as I've said almost every time we have one of these meetings, there is truly no way for me to show absolutely everything that this incredible team is doing. There is so much going on. You are all doing such great work. Some of it is more photogenic than others, but all of it is extremely important. And so just for the ability to, because we're in a sort of a video environment and we don't have a lot of time, I did sort of do a hand selection of some of the imagery that's representative of the progress of late. And some of it is just spectacular because it's a mountain summit site. Some of it is spectacular because you're seeing some of our staff and some of our contractors doing work that is not for the faint-hearted. But all of it is showing great progress. I don't have a great slide to show you of what the dome looked like or the facility looked like before the pandemic. But if you remember correctly, you could look through the dome before the pandemic in that February time period. And now we are very far along despite the activities that have been going on. So we're not just building the dome and the cladding. We are also spending an incredible amount of time doing the commissioning and the integration of building systems like this lift, the dome itself, the telescope in the background, and this is actually the camera cart that you see here that was part of the test to verify that we could get the camera cart. Here it's not loaded, but of course soon it will be loaded, and we will be moving things up and down this elevator or this lift to the top floor on a routine basis. So that's just no, I don't know why it doesn't want to change, but anyway, here we go. So that gets us sort of from the outside and starting to look inward. And in the last few months, we've actually made some really good progress also inside the dome. And here's just a quick video clip. Hopefully, many of you have seen it. It's on YouTube in a more full-length feature of a couple of minutes. But here you see the telescope moving on its air bearings, or oil bearings, excuse me, through manual operation. This is not powered yet, but it's really gratifying to see this much of the detail inside the dome, to see the mount having progressed to this level of integration, and really starting to get a feel for what the telescope is going to look like. Really interesting how that works. And so what that really does is it leads up to a whole bunch of other activities. Now that the telescope is looking like a telescope, it's getting to the back end of the actual integration and the assembly of it. Here's just a couple of samples. There's the static image on the left. There's a team right now in place working very hard to put in this brand new camera refrigeration tubing. Thank you, Kevin, for sending me this image. That team is working hard. This was one of those things, as an emerging issue. This is the second time we've built this tubing, and it's one of those things that we found out we didn't do right the first time. But the team rallied. We have a couple of experts, Tom and Sean, down in Chile right now, and I just really point this out because it's just a great example of us recovering from an issue and making really good progress. And I just love that stainless steel, and those welds look awesome. And then if you don't have vertigo and you can handle that imagery on the right, this is just a whole series of pictures that shows another level of detail. It's not just building the telescope, but now the integration team, the camera team, the telescope team, and the facility group, they're all now working together to figure out, are the procedures in place? Do they work for removing the top-end integrator? And so that's just some pictures from an activity a few weeks ago of the first of many trial runs to see that activity will go. And that sort of leads me to this static image of these two parts. This is maybe not much different than images we've seen in the past, but I really wanted to show this again because in these two images, even though there's only about 3 people shown here, it really represents where we're at as a project. This is not just hardware that you see that's a lovely picture, but it's people that built hardware. That's people that are putting the electronics together, that are wiring it up electrically, that are making it work through automated control and through software interface. The lines and the communication channels to get there. This one picture of these people working on this hardware really embodies the start of commissioning and shows you where we're at, bringing all that hardware to real functioning systems. And then on the right, this is maybe not even the newest picture, but it hasn't really changed much. That is the inside. That is our auxiliary telescope. I show you that picture too, because that one, having completed that hardware, or nearly completed that hardware, that is now in operation once a month. The commissioning team is working and really doing really in-depth, not just is it working right and is it functioning, but really in-depth commissioning activity, right down to running pipelines and exercising the system. And so it really does embody a tremendous amount of work. So this is a picture of, shifting gears a little bit to the camera itself. This is a picture that we've seen in the past, a collage of lots and lots of the different elements in the camera. I think this has probably not changed much in the last several months because the hardware has actually been there for the better part of the last almost a year now. But what has changed and that I do want to show a couple of pictures of, is that the camera team at SLAC has really been very hard at work in putting the camera back together again. You may recall that earlier this year there was a shift in gears, and we stopped doing electro-optical testing. The team there rallied. They came up with new ways to do the integration. That has been very successful. They've pumped down again as of September, and they are now back into electro-optical testing. And so this was a big concern a year ago, and it's been a really productive and successful year. And we look forward to seeing a lot of that electro-optical testing coming to conclusions over the next 6 to 8 weeks. And then another, again, I can't show you everything, but these are some of the things that stood out to me. Here's just another great example. Our French colleagues back came to SLAC. Some of you may know the saga that some of the equipment had, and getting from France to California. But the team made it there. And what I really liked about, not just that this was a successful hardware mission and that it's working and that it's a nice example of that workmanship, but that this is one of those things where a year ago we had resolved ourselves to having to have a slower system that didn't quite meet our expectations. And yet the teams from France and from SLAC came together, and this hardware is now working to specification. And so in that way, it's not just pretty pictures of mechanisms, very large mechanisms and precision mechanisms, but something that's now working to the specifications that we had originally asked for. And then sort of quietly in the background, maybe not so quietly, but I also wanted to point out that administratively, the camera actually met a significant milestone. They completed their version of construction. CD4 was met in August. They formally got their approval in September, and with the completion of those filters that are nicely positioned or packaged in their container there on the left, that marked the completion of CD4. The camera MIE project is done. All of the work we now see on the camera is being done through a different line. It's just basically a different administrative approach and funding line to make sure. But it is really the culmination of years of work, and really needs to be pointed out, and the whole team needs to be given credit for having completed that very important milestone to the DOE. So let me now shift gears a little bit also further and go to data management. And I'm just jumping right in. That team is also working hard. We've been talking about that for years, how we're already working remotely and have been able to make excellent progress over this period as well. And one of the things that has happened in the last year is that our construction DM team, the operations part of the DM team, our data facilities have all worked with the SAC and worked on a way to bring in and accept 7 community brokers for our alert processing. You might remember that the alert stream, hundreds of thousands of alerts coming out of the system. We can do some of that, but the real science comes from the ability to get those alerts out to the community. And so we're really excited to have chosen these 7 alert brokers, and now we have the opportunity to really start working in detail on how to make sure that we bring our alert assets basically to the community in a productive way to really see that science come out of it. There's also a lot of behind the scenes work the data management team is just continuing to press on, and you see a list here. They're doing housekeeping as well as doing software development and pipeline development, and here's some of that list. The second bullet is also quite interesting. You may recall that the upgrade to the Gen 3 Butler was a long effort and took some time and took a lot of the team working on it. And now it's not only part of the pipeline and not part of and part of their development tools, but it's also now running on the Summit and at the interim data facility through the cloud. So this is really bringing to conclusion a really long effort on getting Gen. There's not a lot here, but I do want to point out that the platforms, the science platform and the pipelines also continue to make excellent progress. I'll point out that many of you know that through the operations team, there were some interim data. There was an initial data release, the data processing and release structure, and the feedback coming from the people that have engaged in that first release has really been excellent, and really kudos to the science platform team for having put together a system that is already user friendly and destined to be able to support the science. The data facility is also progressing. I think we've talked about this over the years. You remember that a year or 2 years ago now, maybe, we got thrown a curveball, and our plans for where the U.S. data facility would be were changed. And so that selection was to put the data facility at SLAC. We continue to work with NCSA and now also with SLAC to make sure that the data facility and the DM team are all connected, and that we can have a seamless transition from our development into the data facility and then into getting the data out to the community. But that's been a big milestone, and we very much appreciate the continued work with NCSA, the opportunity to work at a different level and with a different team at SLAC, and all of this is really working and looking quite good. The details of the full transition is still in progress. You may also recall that we not only have assets at NCSA, we have assets on the summit that come from the early development. There's an interim data facility on the cloud, and now there's the U.S. data facility at SLAC. And so there's a lot of transition work there that Will and his team are working hard at getting organized. And then I already mentioned Oxtel as being a great opportunity to really start doing commissioning work. And this is just another example of some of that really detailed, actually trying to run the system, push it down to the scientific levels that we're after. And so the runs that are happening roughly once a month with our summit team, and with a team that's spread out across the entire world to make this to make these commissioning activities with Oxtel a real success, and really bring it down to the levels where we can be testing the minutest of details, both in hardware, software, and the pipelines, and across the board. And then our education public outreach system, Steve mentioned it in our mission statement, and I just want to point out that team for years now has been really prepping to make sure that these different audiences also have access to this fantastic data set. And they are getting perilously close to finishing up their construction duties. And we tend to say things like, oh, they're going to be done, and they will be for construction at the end of this fiscal year. But really, it's a continuum. That's a stellar team. They got a lot of work to do over the next year to bring a lot of the assets they've been working on and get it into the machinery and make their platform for getting the data out. But even after we get to that great milestone next September, where we can say construction was completed, that whole team continues on under the operations umbrella and keeps working forward with their tooling and their education programs to really make sure that when the real data starts flowing, they are poised to engage this broader community. And so we're really looking forward to how that basically it'll be the second part of our major construction project that comes to some interim completion, with CD4 being one for the camera, and then EPO being the next September. So last couple of slides on construction update. We did finally submit our rebaseline. This is just one image of the schedule. We, through various reasons I won't go into if you're not familiar, it did take 2 supplemental funding requests to get the final rebaseline in place. The first one primarily focused on schedule, which you see here. Our original scheduled completion for this project was May 6th of 2022. Yes, just 5 months from now. And now after the rebaseline, that is the scheduled completion is now the 15th of December of 2023. In both cases, we did have contingency, and so now the late completion date after rebaseline is 27 July of 2024, and that's where you've heard both Steve and Željko say over the next couple of years, and that's reference to our new rebaseline schedule. And if you're following and are curious, between these two, or actually now it's 3 submitted supplemental funding requests and 1 that's still estimated out in the future. We now expect that the lovely virus that causes COVID has cost us nearly $70 million by the time we're done, in addition to those extra 2 years of schedule. And this just gives you a quick look at that. So again, apologies to anybody who's had great work, even though it might have been very photogenic. I didn't catch it, but to everybody for the effort that's embodied in all of those pictures that I just showed, because it's really been a tremendous amount of effort, a tremendous amount of progress, and it really is. It is uplifting to see just everybody working together and being this successful. So that's sort of that part of the agenda, and let me invite Richard to unmute, and I will drive some slides for you.
Thanks, Victor. So first off, let me go back. Just thank Steve for getting me on board 10 years ago. And then also kudos to Sandrine for actually mostly driving the Culture Advocates program. I'm just standing in for her. So next, please. Okay, so we did a survey, lots of surveys. Thank you for filling them out. So the things that came back were better communication on what the program is, what's the process, what's coming up, and how we discuss with the directorates. Something that's been happening are these TED Talks, and feedback that came back was, could we advertise them better? How you can make use of them, and also how do you make time to get to them? So we're thinking out all these things as we go through. So again, good questions, recommendations, and thank you. Next. Okay, so some of the outcome. One of the things is to let you get access to Steve and Victor. So there's now a system for getting one-on-one time with them. We're updating the project website. And so Sandrine is coordinating that activity. And then Alicia is having these stress discussion office hours to personally help you through the stressful times we're in. So we're trying to get some progress going, and thanks for your feedback again. Okay, next. Okay, so here are the advocates. So you can see the nice little pictures in there. So Andy Connolly, Udog, me in middle, Felipe and Carol in Chile, and Sandrine and Chuck in Tucson. So on the left side, you can see the things we're trying to do for the team. So someone you can come talk to if you have conflicts, issues, and then also provide a connection to the directorate if that needs to happen. On the right side, it's sort of advocating for you. So promoting allyship. And also, I think Victor and Steve try to lean on us for advice on the temperature of the team. And so how to, what things we can do for better communication, recognition, diversity, stress management. And we've been doing this with Ran Powell and the communication team, and Alicia as the diversity advocate. Next slide. And then here are just some reminders of places you can go, and they will be improving as time goes. So the Culture Advocate homepage, a way to contact the team, just a form that comes up, lets you submit stuff there. The inclusion channel, which will currently let you know about the TED Talks as well. And then anonymous feedback and some more links and things that you can follow. And I think that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Richard, and thanks to the entire Workforce Culture Advocates program and all of you for helping out, not just the team, but as you said, helping out the directorate with a good understanding of how we're managing and how we're moving forward and what's needed for the staff at different levels. So now there are a bunch of other little updates that I feel compelled to have to go through. I'll go through them quickly. We'll make these slides available afterwards if they aren't already, and you can go through this. But there's a few things that we know are on people's mind in different levels because everybody's in a different place. And this idea of a return to the office has been discussed for months and many months. And I think there's a few things that I should say. One, we talk about this, but I recognize absolutely fully that we have lab and site teams that have been going into their workplaces nearly for the entire span of the pandemic. At this point in time, those first 3 months when people were truly all the way off just doesn't feel like it was very much because it's been just so long. But they've all been working, and I extend my deepest thanks to everybody that has just been working hard and making sure that they could get themselves to where the work was. And then, of course, we also talk about, in general terms, return to office, but it's also important to understand that as the project, we're usually talking about the Tucson office or the Chile office and the summit, but your own institutions are in their own place. You are in your own places. You need to adhere to what's going on there. And I recognize that in some areas, everybody might be back to work almost as normal. And in other cases, people are still completely work from home. But in general, there is an effort to try to get back to more in-person activity because there is a lot of things that we lose by not being able to interact with each other directly. So for the Rubin offices in both Chile and in Tucson, it looks a little bit different even there. In Chile, things are open. Most of the staff is on a routine schedule of being in the office or partially working from home, or they're up on the summit every day. But that's sort of pretty regularized in Chile if you're there or if you're heading down there. But in Tucson, while we're also open and there are procedures for going in that are a little bit different, there was no formal start. It was sort of basically a soft reopening. And that's been working well for many people taking advantage of it. But we acknowledge that we didn't do any big push for getting people back because right now it seems to be working. And while we do endeavor to get people back together, that wasn't going to be one of our main thrusts as the pandemic has just continued to ebb and flow. But there is a couple of other important items. You may know that ORA, as a federal contractor, does have a vaccine mandate. And while we've just reached our deadline and we see no particular or no dramatic impacts, we've had very minimum impact on our staffing levels from that mandate. I do want to point out that if you host people in Tucson, or if you're coming to Tucson and you're not an ORA employee, just to pay special attention, work with our admin team, because coming in January, there's likely to be another few steps to make sure that everybody stays safe in the building. So staffing changes over the last year. This is sort of the graphic. I'll let you, this is hard to read anyway, so let me just go through the wording of it. There was a couple of changes, or several changes. Many of you know Daniel Calabrese. Early on, I think it was even last January, Daniel took on a new position at our Central Administrative Services Contracts Department. Though he's still a phone call away, but we were sad to see him leave the business manager spot. And in place of Daniel, Veronica has stepped in to take on a lot of the functions and the roles that he was providing for us. We also had a change in Chile for formalizing the work that Giovanni Corvetto was doing as the acting lead in Chile We did a formal search and came to the conclusion that Giovanni is our candidate to keep going with for being our manager for safety in Chile, working with Chuck here in North America. There's a lot of different issues that are happening with coordinating with Noir Lab, coordinating with Aura, and so forth. And so we're really happy that Giovanni's taken on that responsibility full time. The head of EPO, I think many of you have probably heard. It's been forecast for quite a while that Amanda Bauer was our head of EPO, and it was for many, many years, brought the team to the current state at the precipice of completion of construction, and did a really great job. But she was also selected as the deputy director for operations, and so she carried both roles for about a year. And in October, she shifted over to be the deputy director full time, leaving in her wake large shoes to fill. But Lauren Corliss was already on the team, was our system scientist for EPO, has stepped up and is excited to be leading the team through this next phases. I'll say completing construction, transitioning into operations, and so forth. That does leave a hole for the position that the deputy position that Lauren held before, and the scientist that she was. And so we're looking for a new scientist for the EPO mission. And there's been lots of other changes. Those are the key ones that show up in our key personnel org chart. But I recognize that there are lots of changes that have been happening across the board, and I'll get to some of those in just a minute. But I did want to make another point. We've been talking about for years also trying to make sure there was a smooth transition to operations. And we, myself personally, working with Bob Blum, the operations director personally, we have been working through, clearly with supervisors and managers and the staff themselves, working to make sure that we find a very good, solid transition from construction for our staff into operations. And what this chart shows is just how many people, even in the leadership roles, that have direct interaction right now in making sure that the operations get started well, and that the transition, and therefore the transition between construction and operations, can be managed as smoothly and efficiently as possible. So I think in many institutions probably have something similar, but I wanted to point out that within Aura, we do have awards every year, and I wanted to just show this slide that for this outstanding performance awards were selected for service. That went to Amy Wiest, for diversity, equity, inclusion, which went to Rampal. For our Tech and Innovation Award, we selected Michael Reuter for his excellent work behind the scenes on the infrastructure on the summit. And then there's a team award for the group that had maintained the summit and been going up during the whole pandemic. And there was a large team that sort of broke up into no more than 10 per day, going up to the summit during that first part of the pandemic. So those were the service awards, and then of course there's years of service that are also acknowledged here. We also want to point out that we are still a dynamic team. I think this is really the interesting part. Even though we're construction, we've been around. Some of us have been on this project for 2 decades. This is still dynamic. We are still taking on new members of the team, and we're really excited to have them join. And if you're one of them and listening, let me just welcome you and extend my thanks for joining us. And it's a real pleasure to be able to work with you. And then also on the left, I'll just point out that over the last, I forget how long we've been doing it, more than a year now, the comms team has been working with staff to make sure that we have some 4, 5, 6 highlights of staff members every few weeks. And that's really been a fun way to really learn some more about the team that we're working with. And so I really encourage you to go look at that when they come out in the digest. A couple other announcements. This is an Aura calendar, but the project office functions on the formal Aura schedule. And so on our website, you can always go look and see what our plans are for the project office and when holidays are. But I wanted to particularly point out not just where to find it on the website, but that the first one is now January 3rd of 2022. That is the first of the holidays for the year. And so if you weren't planning on, if you're an Aura employee and weren't planning on a vacation day on that Monday, you're getting it a bonus day. So that points that out. And also, as we come out of this pandemic and we start looking at some of the first things that are starting to happen as we're having conversations about, oh, can I start traveling now? Can I start doing this? I just want to point out that everybody working under the Rubin construction project, and I think it holds true for under DOE rules as well, there are expectations. You are working when you're traveling. And for the project, we have a COVID exposure prevention plan. And if you're traveling, you're on Aura money, you must adhere to that. And so there's some links here, and I just want to make sure that that's well understood for anybody. And there's not a lot of traveling happening yet, but it is starting to pick up. And so I wanted to make that point. Also, in many cases, particularly going international, there is a host of knowledge that comes from people that have done it, because the websites don't keep up quite with the government regulations. The government regulations change frequently, and so there's an unofficial SLAC channel that we invite anybody who is traveling, that is learning anything, that is finding out anything, to post to and to provide some lessons learned to anybody else that's coming along. And then the part of that CEPP is that international travel is still by special permission. And actually travel in general is still by special permission. So talk to your supervisors, talk to the project office as early as possible before you start making plans, so that we can make sure that everything is in place. And then the last item to announce is, many of you, if you're new to the project, you may not even know this unless you go onto the YouTube channel and see some of the lovely videos that have been developed from it. But we have had a history of doing day in the life videos, DITL, where we pick a day and invite the entire project to take a picture of what it is you're doing, whether you're in a meeting or you're some people while they're walking the dog, or others are deep involved in some operation. But whatever it is, we're interested to see what the project team is doing on a particular day. We loosen that up to, there's a few days when you can submit photos, and so it's not exactly that one day, but we really love to get your inputs. It really is insightful and fun to see just how much activity is going on. So look for that. We're going to be trying to get some information out so that on the 11th of January, we will put together another day in the life video. So finally, let me just finish off by saying the following. Look, I think this, you've heard us, several of us that have spoken right now or during this hour say that we think we have an awesome team. You guys are a fantastic group to work with, making awesome progress, and you're doing a tremendous service to the industry, to the community. And it's just it's a real pleasure to work with you. The progress has been great, but we also recognize that progress has come in difficult times, and that's an additional credit to the entire team. And then, on these kinds of presentations, I tend to focus on all these great pictures and all the great successes, but don't misunderstand. I'm fully aware that we have many technical issues that emerge and challenge us. We have budget issues that confront us. We have schedule complications that are constantly in our face. But despite all of that, with this team, I think we are positioned to succeed, and we will deliver on this mission. So The last slide is to formally invite you all to have some good break from work in the next month. Have a good holidays and try to get some rest. And reflect on the great parts of this past year and gas up for what's destined to be an excellent year, an exciting year for 2022. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing so that we can spend 10 minutes or so, or however much time. I think several of us can stay longer if there's interest, but stop sharing and invite. Stop sharing. Success. Well, I can't see a chat. Well, maybe I can now, but I haven't been able to see a chat channel, Rampal, so I don't know where we're
at. Yeah, so then not really questions as such, just reiterating what you were saying. You know, you showed a fraction of the people that are working both construction and operations, and just to acknowledge that there are many, many more people in that position across the project.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I should say I'm sure that if anybody is particularly interested in this, the level of planning for the operations and the pre-operations team is completely embedded and working hard on. They've just done a review, and if you're interested in going through those kinds of details, I'm sure the operations group would be happy to link you up with a lot of the presentations they just did in a very nice review of the entire plan that's in place for operations.
Otherwise, nobody's really asking questions. Sorry, go ahead.
Jeff Bezos is taking over the project.
So there was a typo for Victor in the DITL slide that said Amazon project instead of amazing project.
Oh. Yeah.
My typo, of course. I typed that slide.
It doesn't. Blame it on
SFR 5.
We'll blame it on Google. It probably did an autocorrect on you.
Yeah, probably.
Victor and all, I just want to, well, Victor did it during the presentation, but I want to recognize the enormous and great job that the contractors company are doing here in Chile. I will not mention by names, but it's a group of over 40, sometimes 50 people every day at the mountain, and they identify with the project as much as us, the properly Rubin ore staff. So I just want to recognize them work, and of course their safety orientation, their support to the safety activities that my group performs and develop at the site. So just that.
That's a great point, Giovanni, and you mostly said it, but let me just emphasize that on the summit on any given day, there is typically upwards of 75 people working to get this facility put together, assembled, integrated, and a large number, as Giovanni just points out, are actually contractors that have been with us for years working on that summit. Thank you for them. We're a quiet bunch today. Your opportunity to ask challenging questions of the deputy director before he becomes the director.
Looks like we're all ready for holidays. Get some rest, enjoy with family and friends.
Indeed. Rampal, I mentioned that we would make this link available. I assume we can send something out or make it if anybody's interested.
There is one specific question just came in.
You're muted.
Can we say that we have started commissioning?
You can absolutely say we have started commissioning.
No question about it.
Commissioning team has been hard at work and been working hand in hand with the originating hardware teams in a way that you can't tell the difference between who's hardware, who's commissioning, and it's been the area that actually brings out the most of the emerging issues. It's not until you start using these systems and start testing them at this level that you start to really learn and find out some of the idiosyncrasies and things that we need to fix. And so that all comes from the systems engineering team that is somewhat separately identified within the commissioning team. But generally speaking, it is absolutely safe to say that we have started commissioning.
And operations. There is more discussion on the chat.
Yes. We are operating many aspects of our facility. We're operating Oxtel. We're operating many things. We have to be a little careful. Operations has a very specific definition in some circles, but yes, we are operating.
I think, Victor, I put my answer in this chat window. We have started early operations, and early operations team has been focused mainly on exercising the early data releases thus far. So the construction project is in fact operating equipment on the summit. That is a true statement, but that's part of commissioning, I would argue. But then there's a separate team, some of whom are the same people, but it is a separate effort of ramping up early operations to get us ready for the handover.
I might add that it's been one of the highlights for me this year has been seeing the very first data preview go so well, and this has really been a joint effort between the construction team and the operations teams. Through from the data management folks getting the science pipelines and science platform ready, and then the operations teams working on engaging the community and supporting them. So, it's been really nice to see everyone working together on that.
Those of you who don't know, that's Bill Marshall, one of the deputy directors for Rubin Operations.
I guess we are at the top of the hour, Victor, so I think if anyone who wants to go probably has gone already anyway. You were asking me about what will happen to the recording and the presentation. We'll put together the recordings. Remember, we've got the Spanish one going on as well. We'll make that all into a package, put it on DocuShare, and let everyone know where it can be accessed.
That's great. Okay, well, I'll linger around a little bit, but otherwise, thanks for joining, and once again, enjoy the holiday season and get some rest. It's going to be a fun 2022.